I'm Meghna, I'm a psychologist and I'm a mother of two boys. And there was something about motherhood that confused me for the longest time. There were days I hadn't done anything particularly physical. I hadn't run a marathon, I hadn't spent hours cleaning the house, I hadn't done anything that should have left me completely exhausted. And yet, by the end of the day, I felt so completely drained. Not physically, but mentally. You know that moment when you finally sit down, the children are occupied, nobody's calling your name, nobody needs a snack, nobody needs help finding a shoe. You finally have 5 minutes. And for a second you think, finally. But then your mind starts moving. Did I reply to that message? The school form is due tomorrow. We're running low on milk. The baby needs bigger clothes. I still need to book that appointment. Did I remember everyone's snacks for tomorrow? And suddenly, even though your body is resting, your brain is still working. And before you know it, that 5 minute break has turned into another mental to do list. And if you're anything like me, you probably wondered, why am I so tired? Why do I feel so exhausted when I haven't done all that much today? For a long time, I assumed I just needed more rest. A nap, a quiet afternoon, a little more time to myself. But even when I got those things, I didn't feel quite rested. Because it wasn't really the busyness that was exhausting me, it was the responsibility. Because even when I wasn't doing something, I was thinking about something. Something I needed to remember, something I needed to organize, something I didn't want to forget. And most of that work is happening quietly inside your head. I noticed it at night. The day was over. I finally got into bed. Everything was done. And somehow that was the exact moment my brain decided to start tomorrow. School bags, doctor appointments, birthday gifts, things they were running out of, things they needed to get done. And before I knew it, I was mentally living inside the next day. I think that's what makes this kind of exhaustion so difficult to explain. Because from the outside, it doesn't really look like you're doing anything. You're sitting on the sofa, you're lying in bed, you're drinking your cup of coffee, but inside your head, you're carrying an entire household. Maybe that's why some of the smallest things can feel overwhelming. Not because the request itself is difficult, but because it's landing on top of a mind that's already carrying 100 things. Someone asks a simple question, someone needs something, someone calls your name again, and suddenly you feel irritated, or touched out, or overstimulated. And then because you're a mother, you often feel guilty about feeling that way. I know I have. Because the thing that no one tells you about motherhood is that you're not just carrying tasks, you're carrying responsibility. Responsibility for remembering, responsibility for planning, responsibility for noticing problems before they become problems, responsibility for making sure everyone else is okay. And after a while, that responsibility starts following you everywhere. Even when you're resting, even when you're sitting down, even when you're technically off duty. Because the truth is, many mothers never really feel off duty. And maybe that's the uncomfortable part nobody talks about. The most exhausting part about motherhood is a part often nobody sees. Not the laundry, not the meals, not the school runs. It's the constant mental responsibility underneath it all. The feeling that if you don't manage it all, who will? I realized I wasn't carrying a to-do list. I was carrying the responsibility for remembering the to-do list. And if conversations like this make you feel a little less alone in motherhood, I'd love for you to subscribe. This channel is where we talk about all parts of motherhood, parenting, and family life that people often feel but rarely put into words. I used to think that this exhaustion meant that I wasn't coping very well, that maybe other mothers were handling things better than I was. But now I think that maybe a lot of mothers are carrying so much more than we realize. Because one person was never meant to carry the entire family's mental load. So if you've ever sat down at the end of the day and wondered, why am I so exhausted? Even after finally getting a moment to yourself, maybe it's not because you're doing motherhood badly. Maybe it's because you're carrying these things all day that nobody else sees. The remembering, the planning, the worrying, the responsibility. Because some of the heaviest things mothers carry aren't in their arms, it's in their minds.